Initially, no one is a programmer. That is what I believe. This love for programming or maybe for analytics or data science is something which is eventual and gradual. It is always there in everyone. It is just we have to touch it or tap it, and then it tells you that whether you are made for it or not. So one of the patent that we recently did, it was along with my fellow colleagues from the department. It was about what can be the standard attention span of the student in the classroom. Maybe you should focus more on emotions behind the data. If you can find that abstraction, the hidden things behind the data, behind what is said, behind what is shown to you, I guess that is when your capabilities will be beyond what is required in the academics or even for that matter in.
Welcome to the podcast series from Quantinuum Committee KJSM. So we have Dr. Sudarshan Sirsat, faculty of BADS department KJSM. So welcome to the podcast, sir. So could you briefly introduce yourself, your educational background, and the journey that led you into academia and research in AI and NLP?
Okay, thank you Swapnil and team Continuum for reaching out to introduce about my journey in the academics and research. Long back in 2010, I finished my MCA, and then when the choices came to me, like where I should start with, I earlier started with one of my same post graduation college as a lecturer, and then when I tried by myself for the placements, I got job as a Java developer in one of the IT company, and eventually I realized that maybe IT is not something which I really made for, and that's why I came back to academics again. And since then, I guess now 15 years I'm into academics and enjoying my passion for teaching.
So that's an interesting journey, sir. So now I'd like to ask you, how did you transform from software development to teaching and advanced research shape your approach to data science and analytics as of today?
All right. Initially, no one is a programmer. That is what I believe. This love for programming or maybe for analytics or data science is something which is eventual and gradual. It is always there in everyone. It is just we have to touch it or tap it, and then it tells you that whether you are made for it or not. Similarly, as I started from the Java development, I began in the area of natural language processing, not all of a sudden, but it was a very planned move, rather. My love towards languages basically took me towards a different and non-traditional path, I would say, wherein I wanted to do research in maybe computer science earlier. Now it is AI, but then I was very sure that I am not going to do, let's say, database or software engineering or typical cloud kind of research. Maybe I am more interested towards something called as emotions. That is how I picked artificial intelligence. That time it was not that booming, but then I was very sure that I'm going to work on the text data basically.
Okay, sir. So now you have taught for many years. So how have you seen the analytics field evolve in India during your this long teaching career?
Fine. When we started, and I guess most of my generation people started as in maybe academicians or maybe the professionals. That time, Excel was something which was majorly used for analytics or decision making. That time, it was called MIS department, Management of Information System, and I still remember I took Management of Information subject as one of my uh, starting subject or initial subject in one of the MCA batch. And that time, though there was a concept of information system there, but then it was completely software integrated, or it was not really as an analytical tool, rather it was just an algorithm based approach or rule based approach in what one can take and then maybe do some basic analysis, or it was kind of data which will help you for taking a decision. That's why it used to be called as decision support system earlier.
Okay, sir. So that's insightful. So now, moving on to your research, your PhD focuses on sentiment analysis in regional languages. So, what were the most surprising emotional or linguistic patterns you discovered that differ from English NLP?
All right, this is actually very deep and insightful question, and it will have a elaborated answer as well. When I said that emotion or sentiment is something which I really wanted to observe or analyze, maybe, or do some predictions in that area. So language is the base for these kind of research. And when I did some basic literature review, I found that English is something which is already explored and exposed by many fellow researchers, and that there was a hardly any scope. Though the sentiment area and emotion was evolving area, but then language was already resourceful. Then when I got to know that Indian languages are really struggling in the area, and all the regional languages for that matter, uh, considering Hindi as a regional language of North, it was considered as a low resource language. The low resource language means the language was not self sufficient in order to do any prediction in terms of sentiment or do any emotion classification. That's why I then decided that maybe I'll not stick to just Marathi or let's say Bangla as a language, but maybe I'll generalize it as a regional language, and that is how the concept actually came into my mind. I actually depicted it and took it forward for my research.
So that was an interesting choice. So, moving on. So, what do you think India needs? Data sets, policies, or research centers to truly lead the world on in multilingual NLP?
All right. So India needs actually all, because as I mentioned earlier, these all Indian languages, irrespective of the state or the language, or this language is normally used for this as a spoken or mother tongue, they all are really lacking with the resources. So data set is something which is going to compensate that, maybe, but then it is an individual responsibility as a researchers, maybe all who are doing research in the language or linguistic, and especially artificial intelligence, irrespective of it is NLP or not, or sentiment analysis or not, but they have to develop the resources. So one of the major challenges for me was to develop the resources first, and then maybe I could have done any analysis as such. So obviously data set. On policies front, definitely we have some policies, but that are not self-sufficient, because these policies are not very strict in nature, or they are not implemented very thoroughly by all the practitioners. That is why we need a policy. Like one of the recent instance and one of the recent article that I wrote was about, should one share the intent with these generative AI platforms and tools. And then I realized that there is a no data security policy as such, which is strict in nature in the context and in the country, which will make it sure that this data will not be misused or misplaced by these uh, business organizations, maybe, or private firms, which are maybe registered, may not be registered, but then the data is really at a stake, particularly in Indian context. So we need policy as well.
Okay, sir. So now, as you are teaching from past 15 years, so with 25 publications, 4 patents, which research to classroom idea has been most impactful for your students' learning and skill development?
So one of the patent that we recently did, it was along with my fellow colleagues from the department. It was about what can be the standard attention span of the student in the classroom, and the idea was wall-mounted camera will do the continuous evaluation of the faces, of the body language of the student, and maybe on the basis of that it will capture the attendance, but not capturing the attendance only. Along with that, can I just see how many times someone is nodding, maybe, or blinking eye, or his body language is very vigilant in terms of he is attending it or not. So normally we see that 45 minutes is something which is standard attention span, but maybe because this is a digital era, AI era, in which the diversion is too early, so I guess now it is come to 7 minute maximum that one can pay attention, and maybe they need a at least 30-second break or a refresher, and then maybe they will again come back to the concept. Otherwise, it will be very difficult. So this idea, when it was implemented, or it is still in the implementation phase, I guess this is what something was really engaging, making engagement in the students. And the second one was when I'm teaching NLP to the BADS students, or even to the MCA students. Now I'm trying to implement all my research which I did throughout my PhD and before PhD. Each and every objective I'm trying to implement, and help my students implementing it in their regional language. I'm trying to understand it. This is also a simultaneous learning journey for me, wherein what mistakes maybe I have done, I did during my research, uh, is I'm trying to recover from that, and then I'm also helping or sharing my experiences of my research journey with the students, so that they might be able to use these particular case scenarios in their future corporate life.
Interesting information, sir. So now, moving on, in your role as a co-program director for MBA Sports Management, how are you integrating analytics into sports decision making at the academic level?
All right. So, sports is completely a different domain, and analytics is something which is very majorly used. Right now, we may not be using it in the academics, but we all know that all these broadcasting channels and the companies, private sector, which are majorly catering the sports industry, they are doing analytics like anything. So, one of our project which is ongoing is on the sports sciences and sports analytics, wherein a camera again will be using a Google API and image processing, and then it will tell people that their moves are scientific or not, what kind of efficient or optimized move they can take maybe during their sports exercises or maybe competitions, and then what better results they can maybe achieve through this improved version of their movements, is something I guess it can be really helpful for the even SM students.
So, very nice, sir. So now, moving on, what analytical skills do sports managers specifically need today that ये मैं दोबारा कर रहा हूँ sir, I'll ask again. So, what analytical skills do sports managers specifically need today that weren't necessary 5 years ago?
So, the chunk of data that we have right now, it was not the same 5 years back or before the pandemic. Now, the challenge is you will have data in all the formats from all the sources. Like, one might be interested in doing the maybe WhatsApp analysis, the data set that their group have, or people what they're talking about in their group. They might be interested in creating the word cloud from that, or I just want to understand the topic modeling, as in what are the trending phrases used by my fellow students or faculties in the area. These kind of analysis is going to be more important. Definitely Excel and other data visualization or business analytic in business intelligence, wherein we pay more emphasis on graphs, is important, but beyond that they might be facing some challenges in data cleaning basically, or creating the custom data sets, wherein it is no longer going to be from one source, rather it will be from multiple sources. We term it as a multimodal data set.
Insightful information, sir. So now, do you envision AI tools supporting athlete performance, or also their injury prediction or training personalization at the university level?
Definitely yes. We are even now can see ads which are featuring sports analytics. I guess one of the ad wherein Bumrah is suggested to take a particular move is nothing but prediction only. Maybe if you take that predictive move, he will have a better results. Sooner or later, even university games or sports competitions like AIU, they will have these kind of specially enabled cameras mounted everywhere in the universities, especially our university wherein sport is given so much of emphasis, and world class sports infrastructure. Definitely all these technological assets will help them to take a better move, to decide the better strategy, and to come up with the best possible approach to win the game.
Thank you, sir. So now, with a vast experience and as someone deeply involved in NLP, analytics, and sports management, what future interdisciplinary opportunities do you find most promising for students?
Since AI is, I guess, now everywhere, now we cannot say that one particular department or one particular domain is not really doing well in the AI. I guess it is all about the left shift now. AI is first, and then maybe solutions are revolving around. Earlier, it was your system first, and then AI was just used for understanding things or analyzing the things. Rather, nowadays, things are considered and designed by considering AI first into the system. That's why I guess every student, irrespective of the domain or the specialization that they are taking, they need to collaborate with other domain or other department if they really want to apply their analytic or intelligence skill set, and then understand whether they actually work. Otherwise, it is like just a text knowledge that they have, which it is not implemented maybe, or which is not really helping the society. If you really want to help the society, maybe you will have to do the interdisciplinary work.
That's very insightful, sir. So we're moving towards the end. So final question would be, if you could give one message to students interested in AI and NLP, what would be दोबारा कर रहा हूँ. If you could give one message to students interested in AI and NLP, what would it be?
So, the basic of NLP is emotions or sentiment, and the area which is broadly covering these two aspects is emotional intelligence. So we all say that IQ is something which is natural, which cannot be maybe developed by an individual, but emotional intelligence is something which always can be learned and then adapted to. So if you have a good observational qualities, if you are a good listener of people, if you are a good observer of the processes and people, maybe your emotional intelligence and the skill set will help you understand things far better. uh, Forget about the format or the type of data. Maybe you should focus more on emotions behind the data. If you can find that abstraction, the hidden things behind the data, behind what is said, behind what is shown to you, I guess that is when your capabilities will be beyond what is required in the academics, or even for that matter in the corporate life. So that emotional intelligence is one thing that I would suggest that everyone should practice regularly, and maybe they should keep on improving it. That is what continuous improvement would be called as.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving us your precious time and giving perspective on all the questions. So thank you on the behalf of Quantinuum Committee.
Thank you so much, Swapnil and Quantum Committee.